Okay, so I guess we'll get started. So thank you everyone for being here on Friday to talk about some different marketing strategies. So we are recording, by the way, so we're on video now, and this will be available as well afterwards on the conference page. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Liz. I'm from New York, and I previously worked in marketing for 9 years. And what I did was try to attract American visitors, buyers, VIPs, journalists to B2B events in France. For example, Maison et Objet, I made the first social media account for Maison et Objet in 2011. And I also worked on shows like Vin Expo Bordeaux, Sierra, Ciel Paris, all these kind of events. So I created the marketing plans for those with my boss, Philippe, who is a French American. And we had a lot of different strategies. We didn't do TV commercials, which we'll address here, but we did social media and print and partnerships. So we'll discuss 2 of those here. So the title is Print, TV, and Social Media, Choosing the Right Advertising Strategy for the Right Purpose. So maybe if everyone can just put into the chat, we are going to have a pretty advanced presentation. So maybe if you want to put your level just into the chat, just if you're A2, B2, B1, B2, C1, C2, if you have an idea of your level. So that's great. Yeah. And if it's not C, that's totally fine too. So just so I'm aware. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. All right, so let's get started here. So we're going to start with print advertising. So maybe one that's kind of on the decline, sadly, because I do love print and my parents are both journalists. But print advertising means conveying, sharing, transmitting messages through physical, tangible materials like newspapers, magazines, brochures, and flyers. And of course, if we think about brochures and flyers, things that we hand out, that's also declining because we're a more paperless society and we have to think about environmental impact as well. So pros of print advertising, we have tangibility. We can touch these things. So physical presence allows for a lasting impression. So we might keep the physical material in our house and have even an ad. Some ads I think are beautiful and I like them even as a poster. Our targeted audience, so ads can be placed in specific publications catering to our particular demographic. So we see the verb to cater to, this verb expression, which is interesting. If we just say cater, it means providing food at someone's wedding, but to cater to is to specifically provide a service to someone. So we have cater to, a specific niche. So if you want to advertise fishing equipment, you can find a fishing magazine. If you want to advertise, I know there's specific magazines, for example, for Americans living in Paris. So I actually found some interesting services that way. So that was really helpful for me, a publication that catered to me. And then we have credibility is another pro, another positive of print advertising. So these materials are perceived as more trustworthy and established. So we see a nice compound word, trustworthy. It's worthy of your trust. So something that you can believe in. Of course, we've all had magazines for a long time that we really think are dependable. Like I know Time magazine in the US is a very, very known publication. So if you see an advertisement in there, you probably think it's a pretty serious company. It's not a scam. On the other side, we have some cons of print advertising. So the negative aspects. So we have a limited reach if we're comparing, in this case, we're comparing to TV and social media. And I think this is also declining, print, the whole world of print is declining, maybe not for every demographic. Maybe you kind of have an older demographic for print. We'll also see that with TV. Then we have static content. So just, of course, print stays still. So if you want to demonstrate how a product works, that's a very active product, some kind of toy or something like that for children. Maybe print is not the best choice, although we will actually see an interesting example of print after that manages to show something like that. And then we have costly production. So costly, another word for expensive. And we see designing and printing can be expensive. So this is a big investment. I know when I was working on different events, the print ads were pretty expensive. So we had to be sure that it was the right choice to invest in that print ad. And on the next page, we have some key vocabulary, which can help you make that decision. So I know when I did my marketing plans, if I got a budget for a print ad, before I secured the budget, I had to ask about the circulation. So that's how many people receive this magazine. And then we also have an interesting concept of pass on circulation, which I always thought was interesting. They estimate, I get People magazine, but then I give it to my friend or to my sister. So how many people you pass on or pass along, we can also call it. So kind of interesting concept. I'm not sure how exact or how correct that one is, but you do have the official circulation, how many people subscribe to your e-newsletter, to your magazine, anything like that. Next, we have the layout, which we will look at some examples of print ads, but the layout is really the visual style. So do you have a big logo in the middle? Do you have a very minimalist ad? Do you have a lot of text? Do you have a lot of image? Those are some choices that can reflect your product or your service. Then the format, of course, so the size, shape, and specifications of the printed material. And when I was working with these ads, we would just call them specs. So if you see an email and they ask you for the specs of the ad, they're going to ask, it's 6 inches by 8 inches and what kind of document. It's a JPEG and it has to have minimum quality. So I would do a lot of emails talking about the specs and preparing the ads to fit into the space. And then ad space, so the area allocated for the advertisement in a publication. And of course, we're going to have to pay more for premium space near the front, or the back cover is very, very coveted, because then if you flip the magazine over, you have a full page ad on the back. So obviously the pricing is based around that. So we're going to look at our first print ad. So maybe if anyone wants to participate and type something in the chat that they notice about this ad, I don't know if you can see the text. Maybe before you look, you can say, oh, what is this ad about? What is the product? What is the message? If anyone has any thoughts, they can put into the chat maybe. What do we see in the ad? Any objects that we see? Anything a bit different than you would expect? For me, this is kind of not my usual experience. When I was a child, I had a bigger problem than this. So this was an unusual sight. So does anyone know what object we're looking at, or what kind of little animal that is there?
No, see the chat.
So you can always type into the chat if you have any thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Ants. Yeah. Insects because of sugar. Exactly. Yeah. So some good thoughts. So usually, as I'm sure you're thinking too, when you're holding a lollipop or some kind of candy, when I was young, it was always ants would come. In America, we have a lot of insects. So I had ants. Exactly. Avoiding. So yeah, perfect. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. So is this good or not for the image? I mean, I think the question is, maybe we're targeting parents here and they're trying to say it's not very sugary. So I think maybe they're not messaging kids like it's so delicious, but I think we have a tiny text, which is not very visible, that says it's sugar-free. So I think in this case, we might be targeting more parents who buy candy for their kids. So we see that the insects are not coming because maybe it's not so sugary. Of course, now our opinions change. Maybe it has a fake sugar that's also not very healthy. But yeah, I think it's interesting. It's maybe not targeted at the kids, but at the parents, so they can see that it's a healthy or low sugar option. And in terms of the layout, we can see really interesting. The colors are kind of dull. And then, of course, the lollipop is red and white. So that's a big contrast in the center. And we can see the layout makes the product kind of pop, as we say. Okay. And on to the next one. I love this ad for Volkswagen, which is really cute. So maybe if you notice any objects that you see or what you think the message of the ad, you can put into the chat there. So we have a very cute, it says precision parking. So what are they trying to say? And I think this one is also interesting because, as I said, we like to have a dynamic, kind of moving thing. So print ad is static, it's still. But in this case, they kind of address an issue that usually we would see on TV, we would see a car moving or a driver in the car, but they managed to do it in the print ad. So does anyone have an idea of the message, what Volkswagen is trying to say? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to park your car, avoiding these obstacles. Perfect. Yeah, great thoughts. Yeah, we see very delicate obstacles. Exactly. Yeah. So we have the porcupine there. I think porcupine, hedgehog, porcupine. Yeah, maybe porcupine. Any spiky animal. So exactly, we have a kind of danger. Obviously, if this animal hits even a tiny bit, they will kill the fish. So we can see that we can really trust Volkswagen here. And we can see that it's very accurate parking or very careful parking system. So for me, this is a really creative way where we don't see someone parking, parallel parking, but we kind of get the idea that this parallel parking system is really good. Okay. Yeah, true. I think Volkswagen has some really creative advertising. And for me, it's refreshing because sometimes you see a car ad, it's just a car. And for me, since I'm not a car person, it's not very interesting to just see, okay, red car, cool. But this is more creative. So I agree. I think they do a great job thinking outside the box. Okay, so going on to TV commercials. So involves airing short video clips on television networks to promote products or services. So this is a good word to be aware of. I do have students in general at a more beginning level, but some of my students will say, I ask, oh, what do you do? What is your job? They say, I am a commercial. And of course, in English, we can't say that because that means je suis un pub télé. So it's a very cute mistake, but it's just a different use of the word commercial in English and French, of course. So for us, it can be an adjective, but here it's acting as a noun, as in an ad on TV. And then in the UK, you might see the word advert. You might see advert or TV advert. So that would be also a word for commercial, something we see on TV. So the pros of commercials, so wide reach. I mean, I think we can also debate this. Maybe fewer and fewer people are watching TV. We're going to see social media last. So that's probably the increasing one. But in general, it still reaches a vast audience, making it highly effective for brand exposure. So you have brand visibility. A lot of people are aware of your brand. And then we have engagement. So combines visuals, audio, and motion for a captivating experience. So we can find commercials really entertaining. There can be music, there can be movement. As I said before, the print ad can't always show, especially when I was growing up. I loved the commercials for toys or games where you would see it going around. It was really captivating for me because I said, oh, I want to touch that or play with that. Frequency, so allows for repeated exposure to reinforce brand recall. So I think we've all had the experience of having some kind of commercial jingle, as we say. So the jingle, the little song in the commercial repeating, like, I don't know if you have in France also the commercial like Ricola with the cough drops that are from Switzerland, but maybe not. But there's some songs I still remember. So we hear commercials again and again. We hear the brand name. So it's a bit irritating. It's annoying, but it can be effective from the point of view of the brand. Then we have our cons, our negative parts. So costly airtime. So prime time slots can be expensive. So definitely one case in the US, we have the Super Bowl commercials. So a lot of people in the US who don't even like football, they watch the big football championship, the Super Bowl. They actually say, I watch for the commercials because they see celebrities and sometimes George Clooney will be there or famous people. And they usually have really funny, creative commercials. But I think they spend like millions of dollars to air one commercial. So it's very big investment. Next, we have another con, channel dependency. So we're limited to who's watching the channel. I mean, this could also kind of be a positive in that generally the demographics, some channels are more for older people, some channels are for children. So you could say that, but it depends if you can invest in exactly the channel you want. And short-lived, so commercials have a brief duration and viewer attention may wane. So the interest may decrease, or maybe if you hear that brand jingle again and again, you tune it out so you don't pay attention to it. And we also have a difference, as we'll see with social media. Social media is really interactive, so you can ask questions about the product. But a commercial, maybe you lose interest because they've told you the message and there's nothing more to do with it. So let's go on to some key vocabulary. So we have airtime, kind of an interesting verb, to air, because of course we have the air as a noun, which is all around us, but we have to air is like to appear on TV. So I know I had a student who worked filming TV shows in France like Quotidien and N'oubliez pas les paroles and these kind of things. So he would tell me about, oh, yesterday I was at the filming and this episode will air next week, or will air. I think he worked on The Voice and he said, oh, this will air in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. So the filming and when they actually air can be different. Then we have prime time, the period of highest viewership on TV, usually in the evening. So I would say like 8 to 10 when I was growing up was prime time TV. When I was growing up, there was Primetime Thursday on NBC. We had Friends and Seinfeld and some of my favorite shows that a lot of people were watching because it's the period after dinner and before you go to bed, basically. Slot, so the allocated time for broadcasting a commercial, which we also use, time slot. We use that at Certes Langues. Oh, can you book this slot for me? She's in my 4 o'clock slot. That's a slot I have open for a lesson. And then we have spot is kind of just like a slang for a TV commercial. So used more in like the advertising world. And I don't have any examples because I think there's some issues with copyrights and things like that. So we'll stay away from that. But I will have a resource at the end, a link for all of you that has some links for some interesting commercials that this blog found effective. So that would be interesting to see. Okay, so on to our last category. So social media advertising involves promoting products or services on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, most recent development, X, I guess. I don't subscribe to the new X, formerly Twitter, but I guess you can advertise on there as well. So we have our pros of social media are the targeting options. And if you, like me, have ever purchased, for example, a Facebook ad, I remember buying a Facebook ad and it was so specific. You can be like, oh, people who live exactly here, who are interested in Game of Thrones and, organic shopping and very, very targeted things because people have so much information about themselves on their profiles. So you can really be really exact and specific in your targeting. So demographics, interests, behaviors, are these people who exercise, who watch TV, all these kind of things. And interactivity is the topic that I evoked before. So facilitates direct engagement between the brand and the audience. And I see this becoming more and more important because I think people want to be heard and people's opinions are more valued. We see, of course, with like Google reviews, for example, that's not exactly the same thing. But when people have a bad experience with a brand, they want to comment and kind of warn and protect other people. Or if they have a good experience, they want to show other people. And I think if you're on social media and you're active, you can reply to some of these concerns. Maybe you can make things a little bit better if someone is not happy with your product. And I think people today really appreciate a proactive brand who takes the time to react to them, who takes the time to reach out to people. So I don't think people just want to sit and hear you talk about your product. You have to have a dialogue. Next, we have analytics, which I've also seen when I was purchasing some social media advertising. It's great to see who clicks and where they come from and what their profile is like. So it provides detailed insights on ad performance for optimization. So of course, you get that feedback. And then the next time, maybe you can be more specific or you can change the ad saying, oh, most of the people clicking are young. So let's make the ad a bit more young and youth friendly. We have the cons, so the negatives of social media, so ad saturation. We've all experienced a lot of advertising or maybe kind of a creepy, scary advertising where we talk about something and then we see white t-shirt ads pop up because we mentioned a white t-shirt. Users may encounter numerous ads, potentially reducing impact. Maybe we become immune to how much advertising is around us. Platform algorithms, so visibility is affected by algorithms, necessitating optimization. Yeah, so the ROI is better in analytics. Yeah, exactly. So we have more information, of course, with commercials. We don't have that same return and not as quick and not as precise. So I think that's, yeah, definitely the advantage. And we have ad blockers. This could be something that exists. Some of my friends are into this. I don't block ads because I like online shopping, but I do have friends who completely block their ads, and you can't reach these people quite as well. I'm sure they'll find new ways to get to them too. So I thought we'd look at some different examples. First, our key vocabulary to understand what we'll look at. So we have the engagement rate, how actively users interact with an ad. We have the click-through rate, so how many people actually clicked on your ad. And then the impressions, which is the step before, the total number of times an ad is viewed. So of course, we have to kind of put these together, and usually the analytics will do it for us and say, a lot of people are seeing the ad, but they're not clicking. So maybe you need a better call to action, as we call it. So maybe you need to say, click here for a 15% discount, or click here to impress your colleagues with your new skills. Or maybe you need a different call to action if you're just having impressions and a low click-through rate. So I thought we'd look first at one example. So this is from a company, I guess we would pronounce it Glossier. I think it's an American company. They're definitely trying to sound French, which a lot of companies in the US try to sound French, especially if they're in beauty, luxury, food. They try to have a French sound, but I think it's an American company if I'm correct. So the founder described it as the first socially driven beauty brand, and often crowdsources product development, asking its Instagram followers what they'd like to see next. So we see this word crowdsourcing, which is a great verb, a compound word. So they source the ideas from the crowd, from multiple people, from their group, their big group of followers. So it's a really interesting idea because it's not just people sitting in a room thinking, I think, our customers want a new mascara. They really have people commenting like, I like your mascara, but I want a waterproof one, or I want this lipstick in red. Or I know for a lot of companies in the US, they've been getting a lot more feedback about different color ranges. So people with different color skin give feedback. There's not enough colors for my skin tone. So it's interesting to have that feedback, which is something that social media allows that we don't see in print or TV. And then they're saying this level of customer interaction and involvement has created a cult following, which is further enhanced by their clever influencer marketing strategy. So this is one of the examples of, they have Beyonce, who is quite an influencer to get. And they have, it's not very visible, but they say Beyonce wears blank. So we don't know what product in blank. We don't know what color. So they say coming soon. So this is something fun you can do on social media. You can tease, you can drop hints, and then you have people following and continually checking back on what products are available. So they're always going to come back. So I think that's a really interesting way to engage with people. And it's a bit more fun and interesting than just you sitting and watching a commercial. This is a lot more playful and builds up suspense about your product. So of course, that one has Beyonce. This one, we're going to look at something a bit different because this was Audible, the audiobook company. And what they did was work with micro influencers and nano influencers. So very small. This guy, his post has, about 10,000 likes, which is not as many as Beyonce would have. To me, it's a lot, but for Beyonce, that would be small. So these are really choosing people who are more targeted and really close. And then we have the word relatable, which is used a lot with social media, also with all kinds of media, TV. But people feel they can relate to or connect to these people. These are realistic people. So this is a different approach than Beyonce. Maybe we won't look like Beyonce, but maybe like this guy, we can take a walk and listen to an audiobook. That's a bit more, we could also call it approachable. So we have that different strategy where you want to reach normal people and you use kind of more like normal people. Yeah, it's a different niche. It's a different, going for a really small, specific niche, but also that are really closer to the influencers. And we also see some of the micro influencers, speaking more with people directly. Beyonce won't answer our messages, but maybe this guy would. I'm not exactly sure. And I'll just do one more, which is my project, one of my work projects. I thought that would be fun to share. So I think social media advertising, this was a form of promotion. It wasn't exactly advertising, but it was a promotional contest, which is a great thing to do on social media. And I was really lucky because I had the budget to give the prize of a trip to Paris. So that's an amazing prize that attracted a lot of attention. It was specifically aimed at professionals, and that was a little bit of a challenge because it's not the same as doing a B2C, like win a trip to Paris, share your photo. It's not exactly the same. So we did have to target professionals. In this case, we were targeting mixologists to bring them to Vinexpo Paris. And this was a first edition that was also focused a lot on cocktails as well as wine. So we decided to do a mixology contest. So with my boss, we came up with this plan and we decided people could create a custom cocktail inspired by the event. So hopefully they would visit the event website, see how amazing it was going to be, and then make a cocktail. And then we would have them post it and we were going to judge. So unfortunately, I didn't think it all the way through and I didn't have the resources to actually make and taste these cocktails. So I had to end up in a partnership with a mixologist who did the tasting and judging. There were some challenges. I was careful to say, okay, it's not just a cocktail inspired by Paris. It's a cocktail inspired by Vinexpo Paris. So we did get some people who would just say, you know, it's like Saint-Germain liquor or it's like a wine cocktail. So that was a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to get niche with B2B. But it was a really interesting thing that was a lot more fun to post about. And it got people engaged and it got people using their own skills and then showing their networks. And because these were professional mixologists, these were the people we're targeting. And when they post the cocktail with our hashtag, they were also targeting their friends as well. So that was a really nice project. And then I have just some resources here, which you guys will be able to see afterwards as well. So just some commercials and print ads that might be interesting to see. All right. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts about different types of marketing? Maybe if you think print is dead, or if you don't like social media marketing, or which one you have to use for work. See, maybe we can unmute people now if anyone wants to hopefully unmute some people. If anyone has any ideas. Oh yeah, so Erica's thought, oh yeah, too much advertising. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Even though I worked in marketing, I think there's like too much advertising. You know, as we said with the social media, we get so much. Yeah. And then Erica, maybe if you can turn your mic on, do you think there's some kind of solution, or do you find your advertising is not targeted to you, or is it too targeted to you? Yeah, so Erica's saying, yeah, it's a bit scary. Yeah, so I think these super targeted ads, I mean, I think especially we're seeing with like Alexa, Siri, okay, Google, it's kind of scary how much they're listening to you. So of course we can do ad blocker, but if we're thinking from the advertiser's point of view, yeah, it's a bit frightening that we don't have the same privacy. So yeah, true. We feel, yeah. So Julianne, so maybe if you, let's see, we can turn your mic on. So you like targeted advertising, or you think it's a good approach? Maybe if you turn on your mic, Julianne, I think you can. No, we don't hear you. If not, yeah, I'm not sure about the mic sound.
Now?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was saying that it's a good way for me to put the right ads in front of the right person.
Yeah.
Because when you give some ads on TV, for example, commercials, it's for everyone, but it doesn't every time fit the target.
Yeah, true.
You waste a lot of money, time, and effort
Yeah.
in something which is not precise.
Yeah.
And for the good and the worse, I don't know if
the pros and cons, or for better or worse.
Exactly. It's we are in an era of targeting on micro targeting.
Yeah.
More and more.
Yeah.
I do a lot of scrapping as well to get lists and names on now we with AI we managed to have some information, advanced information, even on the way people behave.
Yeah.
The way to address them.
Yeah.
Even when we reach to some customers. So
yeah,
everything is new.
Yeah.
Just experimenting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, yeah, of course, it's natural that things are getting more personalized and more specific. So yeah, whether it's good or bad, it's inevitable.
It's going fast as well.
Yeah.
I've been learning Facebook ads with an American mentor a few years ago. Now it's almost dead. It's not dead, but there's so many other things going on that it's not as important. And another point is that the size of the market is completely different between US and Europe.
Yeah.
In France, we have a very small size market, and the techniques that I've learned in US are not we cannot apply it.
Yeah.
In France, because
we can't apply the same techniques. Yeah.
They niche down so in a way so intensive that there is not enough metrics in France to use the same techniques.
Yeah. And of course we have different privacy laws, of course. So yeah, from region to region, it's a bit different.
But, it's getting better. There has been a few months ago, 1 month ago, something have been signed between Europe and America.
Oh, okay. For the privacy,
for the privacy and everything.
Yeah. It's changing a bit now. So yeah.
What exactly, Julien? What exactly has been signed?
An accord. How to say it?
An agreement. Yeah.
An agreement between United States and Europe about where you l'hébergement des données.
Oh yeah, like the data storage or data.
So now it allows us to store the data even in America. As before, it wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed to store data in out of Europe.
Yeah.
But does it mean that the US will have the property of the data, or just the storage?
That means that if we have some server that stores the data over in US, we cannot have problem because of that. After, on my point of view, even if it's stored in Europe, they would have the data anyway, because we all are using Microsoft. There's backdoors everywhere, so we all use Google. There is anyway, they've got the data. So it was just messing around for me, but that's just my point of view.
Yeah. Okay, and Erica says good good advertising is exciting, can provoke laughs and emotions. So I definitely agree. I think those are the most memorable, especially commercials. So you guys can look, one of the resources is 10 best TV commercials and why they work in 2023. So I think those are more English language commercials, but that will be extra interesting as you keep studying English. And as you move up your level, you can see kind of the copywriting approach and the dialogue approach in there. So thank you everyone for coming, and tune in the future. Check the list of conferences for some other upcoming topics. And thanks for being here, and thanks for your contributions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
See you guys next time.